Hello everyone, and thank you for choosing Danomics. In this video, we're going to review how to filter your data, how to set up global defaults for the decline curve analysis and for economics. Then we're going to show you how to customize the decline curve analysis graphs. Let's get started. To begin, I'm going to filter down to our relevant data. I can do this by coming to the tab here on the right and going to the filters area. For this analysis, I'm going to filter along a number of axes. First, I'm going to only show wells that have greater than 10,000 BOEs of cumulative production. I'm then going to filter to wells that have a GOR between 1,000 and 5,000. For this interpretation, I'm only going to look at wells that have a lateral length greater than 4,500 feet. And finally, I'm going to choose to filter based on spud date. I only want to see wells that have been spud after, let's say, January 1st of 2015. This has filtered me down from roughly 7,000 wells to the 595 being displayed here. I'm now going to turn on my production bubbles. And you'll notice that as we've done this, we've now filtered both the map and our well list. So now I'm going to choose to put some basic constraints on my decline curve analysis before starting my interpretation. I'm going to hide away the filters for now so we can focus on this area. There are a few parameters that are available for us to set. There's the maximum QI, the minimum and maximum DIs, and the minimum maximum B factors, as well as options for the start date method and the terminal decline. These are global constraints for our decline curve analysis, and these can be overridden on a well-by-well basis. Let's review each option. QI is the initial rate from which we'll start the decline. When working with daily data, this is very obvious to us. We can just find what the maximum QI in our data is and use this. However, in monthly data or quarterly or annual data, the QI needs to be extrapolated. This parameter allows us to set how high it can go relative to the maximum observed rate. So in this case, the default is a QI of 1.5. Let's say I wanted to let that go a little bit higher. We could set that to a QI of 2. DI is the initial decline. The numbers for these values should be somewhere greater than 0 to an initial decline of some relatively high number, and in this case the default of 500 is quite suitable. B factor, this controls the late time decline that we see in our wells. Setting this is a personal preference, but I like to go between values of 0 and about 1.3 for my analyses. For start date, we have 3 options. We have best fit, first decline, and max. In many cases, these will all result in the same start date for an analysis. However, they can be different. So let's walk through each of them. Using max starts at the maximum observed rate and begins the decline there. First decline will start at the first date at which your production rate declines. And best fit will try to achieve the best fit to the observed data at each time step. To try to force this to the earliest possible step, it applies a penalty the later that it goes into the production history. Best fit is often a great way to analyze things like PDP production when you're really interested in the remaining reserves. And finally, we have terminal decline. The terminal decline is useful to put a minimum annual decline on your data. In this case, I'm going to choose to set this at exponential, and I'm going to set it at around 8% per year. So I'm going to put a value of 0.08. You'll notice that when I do this, two dots appear with the symbol T. This is when each of our fluids hits its terminal decline rate in its production forecast. Okay, now that we've set that, let's set some basic economics here for our analysis. So we can choose to enable the economics. We can put in a oil and gas start price. We can put in a royalty. We can put in fixed and variable OPEXs for each of our fluids. We can put in a D&C cost, and we can put in an annual inflation. We can use that annual inflation to both inflate prices and our operating expenses. You can then put in the relevant oil and gas severance taxes, discount rate, abandonment cost, and a maximum well life. All this will contribute to showing you when your declines hit their economic cutoffs and on when to truncate for calculations of EUR. Okay, now that we have customized all of these variables, let's take a look at how we can customize our charts. So I'm going to make this a bit bigger so we can see a bit better. So this is our basic decline curve analysis chart. There are a few options that are available to us. First, we can choose whether or not to view our data on a linear scale or on a logarithmic scale. We can also choose to stagger our fluids, which will put the primary fluid on the left-hand side and the secondary fluid, which is gas in this case, on a secondary scale. We can choose whether or not to view in a view that's limited to our available data, or we can choose to extend time. Similarly, we can zoom in to an area here on the axis. This allows us to better focus on the relevant data while still seeing a portion of the forecast. We can zoom out by double-clicking on the axis. We can do the same by zooming on the axis for the production range. This allows us to see a more zoomed in view, and once again we can zoom out by double clicking. In terms of choosing which fluids to show, you can do this by turning fluids off and then selecting them again in the drop down menu. Let's add water to our graph. And finally, we're not just limited to showing rate time graphs. We can also see charts of cumulative production versus time, or we can view both simultaneously, allowing us to see the quality of our forecast in both a cumulative production view and a rate time view. Okay, so in this video we have reviewed how to set filters, how to set global constraints, how to set up our basic quick look economics, and how to customize our decline curve analysis graphs with respect to both the scales, the fluids that we're displaying, and the graph type. Remember, once you've got your layout set up and you've chosen your parameters and filters, remember to save your work by going File, Save, or by clicking Control-S. Okay, thank you, and if you have any questions, feel free to contact us at support@danomics.com. Thank you.